Alright guys, Touchgrab back again today. Having enjoyed your Friday so far, and today the Paris home series begins. We're really closing in on the end of the season now. In 3 weekends time, I believe we have the New York one, then a Toronto one, then a London one, I think, and then it is the World Championship. But this Paris event is going to be very interesting indeed. Last weekend at the Minnesota one, Florida Mutineers took a surprise championship victory, beating Chicago Huntsmen, Dallas Empire, and Atlanta FaZe on the way to the crown. This weekend, Dallas Empire and Atlanta FaZe are out for revenge here, with Florida Mutineers looking to hold on to their crown against the Paris Legion in their very first matchup. We'll go into predictions today. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. It starts later today, Saturday, Sunday, as is tradition. Let's talk first of all about Toronto Ultra, who officially confirmed this change now with, well, they're bringing in Kleenex to the starting lineup. Classics on the bench. The guys on the Hardpoint podcast talked about it yesterday, saying, like, what are they doing? Like, this just seems like an awful decision. Seems like they're setting up their own team for failure just so they can make this Kleenex change. But regardless of the situation, they don't really explain anything. And this is the squad now. So you've got Cammy, Bance, Metals, Kleenex, and Methods is on the team. And as Dylan Daily Madcat says right here, 4 of these guys are from Europe, right? We've got Kleenex from Denmark, which I don't know when the last time we had a Danish player in the CWL even was. Like, I'm not sure we've ever had one, so really, really cool to see. Metals, of course, from Spain, Bance from England, Cammy from Scotland, and Methods from the US of A. So yeah, really, really cool to see. Of course, it's really a much more European team than the Paris Legion is, right? Which is pretty interesting to see. But we'll have to see how they do this weekend, because they certainly do not have the easiest group. And to be honest, no team has an easy group right now, because the league is very, very competitive indeed. And this is what it looks like. So Florida Mutineers, Paris Legion, Dallas Empire, Royal Ravens is, well, the first matchup of the day, these two. These are in the same group. Usually they spread it out, so you have like a Group A match, then a Group B, then a Group A, then a Group B. This is the other way around, I believe, to put the Paris and London games earlier. However, as we talked about yesterday, they have brought the start time back by 3 hours from when it usually is. I think on the Saturday tomorrow it's the same time, but on the Sunday it's brought back by 2 hours as well. So pretty interesting change. Means that bringing these back isn't really too meaningful, right? Because the games start early enough regardless. We'll go onto the schedule again right at the end of the video. But these are the teams that are in attendance: Mutineers, Paris, Empire, Royal Ravens, OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, Subliners, Ultra, and the Atlanta FaZe. And let's do a bracket builder here to see how this will go. I'll leave the link to the bracket builder down below if you guys would like to do one for yourself. If you do well, you get like points on the scoreboard, they put you up on the stream, all this kind of good stuff. So this is how it's going to go. Now, all these groups we see were determined a very long time ago indeed, like several months ago now, so really they had no idea how good certain teams were going to be at certain times of the season. But I do feel kind of bad for Royal Ravens and Legion in this first one, because they're playing up against the Mutineers and the Dallas Empire. So let's go through it then. Mutineers beating Paris I think is pretty expected at this point. I'm not going to write Paris Legion out of doing something, because then again, LAG, I think most people would have written them off last weekend, but they had a great performance in Search and Destroy and make it to top 4. Not out of the question. Anything seems to be possible in these online tournaments, but then again, there's only 4 teams in the entire league that have won championships so far this season. That being, of course, Dallas Empire, Atlanta FaZe, Chicago Huntsmen, and the Florida Mutineers now, who have all won 2 championships as of now. So yeah, I'm going to take this series in a 3-1. Mutineers sometimes do start out slow, but last tournament they beat Chicago in their very first matchup, so I'm not expecting them to. They should be able to ride that momentum wave of last weekend to some degree. Then you've got Empire, Royal Ravens, and this is tough, right? Because Royal Ravens was such a good team when they played last, but they're against an Empire squad, which, yes, they looked pretty damn good last weekend. They may have been one of the, well, they were certainly one of the best teams there. They may have been the second best team there after Mutineers. We wouldn't really have known how it would have gone against Atlanta FaZe, but FaZe not really looking themselves last weekend for sure. But then again, Royal Ravens have had a couple of events off now, and the fact that they come against an Empire team that should be pretty well prepared after last weekend's defeat that they had, and also coming off, well, a pretty favourable situation, the fact that they've just played last weekend, they've got some momentum rolling that Royal Ravens don't really have. So I think I'm going to take Empire here in a 3-1. Pains me to do it, but yeah, I think that Empire are a very solid squad, and I might even predict this team to win again this tournament, even though I did that last weekend, and it didn't really work. Let's have a look at this Group B then. So Subliners, OpTic Gaming, FaZe, Ultra. You know, Subliners OpTic is an interesting first round matchup here. I'm going to take Subliners in a game 5, and this is just because I think that OpTic sometimes do start out slow. These teams, in terms of where my power rankings are like right next to each other right now in that like top 6, top 7 type of range. They both have to be around there, so definitely could go either way. Clutch factor is going to come down to things this weekend, and OpTic still have Chino in the starting squad, so in terms of slaying power, they're probably just not quite there enough to compete with the very best teams in the game, in my opinion. You know, maybe a change will come in coming weeks. There still has been rumours over the last couple of days that potentially that is the home for Gunless, so maybe they make that change in a couple of weeks' time for the New York event. Not sure if they're actually playing there, but who knows, right? A few events to go. Definitely could be Gunless time, right, with the World Championship on the horizon. But I'm going to take Subliners in this one. I think they'll just edge them out in the first matchup. Then you've got Atlanta, Toronto Ultra. So this is an interesting match. Like, I'm actually going to take this to go again to a Game 5. Like, FaZe have played 3 Game 5s now in a row. Well, not in a row, because they lost the, they lost in Game 4 to Mutineers in the Grand Finals. But every other series, they won in a Game 5 fashion. And I'm going to take it again here. Of course, Toronto might not put up as much of a fight, but I honestly do think that this Clinic squad could be kind of nasty. And FaZe may underestimate this team to some degree, as they did with the Seattle Surge last weekend. I think that's not completely out of the question, right? So I think this series could go the distance, but in terms of clutch factor, obviously FaZe are, in my opinion, far and away above Toronto Ultra. When both these teams tend to go to a Game 5, FaZe tend to win theirs, Ultra tend to lose theirs. So definitely FaZe can win this series in a number of ways, 3-0, 3-1 or 3-2, but in any circumstance, I think that they do get the better of them. So let's look at these losers matchups real quick. Legion, Royal Ravens. Definitely going to take the Royal Ravens in this one. Haven't really seen anything out of Paris Legion to say that they should be able to beat Royal Ravens. Definitely, I think they mixed them up earlier in the season. But if you're looking at power rankings right now, Paris Legion might be in your last place spot, right? Given Seattle looked somewhat better last weekend. Then you've got OpTic Gaming Ultra, and I do think OpTic Gaming get the better of them here. I'm going to say it in a 3-1. OpTic have done it a couple of times now where they've gone down to the losers bracket to start with, and then they've like romped back all the way to the Championship Sunday. So I definitely think there's a very high likelihood of that again. Let's look at these quarterfinals then. So Mutineers, Empire, Subliners, FaZe is what I'm going with. This is a very tough one to call because Mutineers, Empire, obviously they played last time. It went down to a Game 5 round 11 that Mutineers were able to win. But watching that series, I felt like Empire may still have slightly been the better team. And yes, Mutineers did beat them on the day. But if that series was to be run like 100 times, I think maybe Empire win it like 55 times or something like that. It felt like in the respawns, Empire had a little bit more in the tank. So, you know, with an extra weekend, maybe they can look back on the series they lost, right? Because when you lose, it does give you some sort of an edge, right? Losing is learning, as I'm sure some of the guys on the Empire would say. So I think that they can come back with a better force here. Then again, do they manage to beat the Mutineers in this online environment, which seems to favour them? I'm going to say they do. I'm going to take it in a Game 5 once again, but this time, Empire do manage to clutch up. Arguably, they should have won the series last weekend. They had like a 4-versus, it was like 4-3 in the Game 5, but they managed to lose it with that advantage in hand. So this time, I'm going to take the Empire winning this series once again and going on to this, the semi-finals on the Sunday. Let's look at this early semi-final then. Subliners, FaZe. I think these guys have matched up a couple of times. I think it's gone to Game 5 quite a lot of the time, but FaZe always have managed to get the better of them. So I'm going to say it again. It seems pretty crazy to predict FaZe to win another Game 5, but they did it 3 times last weekend. Wouldn't be surprised if they do it another 3 times this weekend or something to that effect, right? So yeah, going to take FaZe beating Subliners in this one. Then we look at the knockout rounds. Mutineers, Royal Ravens, and look, I just feel bad for the Royal Ravens, but Mutineers are just too good of a squad right now. Their hardpoint is just seems pretty lights out. Their Search and Destroy could continue to improve, but I just see a very difficult time for Mutineers winning 2 back-to-back tournaments with the caliber of teams they have here, which is why I'm kind of being a little bit cautious predicting the Mutineers to do it once again, because, you know, winning back-to-back tournaments is something pretty much unheard of this entire season. If the Mutineers can do it, then very fair play. But I'm going to take them to beat the Royal Ravens regardless. Thinking something like a 3-1 fashion. I just think the Mutineers respawn is just so strong right now. And when we saw the Royal Ravens play Chicago, another strong respawn team, especially in that Grand Finals that they played a few weekends ago, Royal Ravens were pretty much outclassed in the hardpoint. So I can imagine something relatively similar happens again. And I'm going to take OpTic to beat the Subliners as well in the 3-1 fashion. I'm going to continue with this trend of OpTic losing first round of the Game 5 and then kind of storming their way through losers bracket to the Championship Sunday. So this is what I'm going with. Empire, OpTic, FaZe, Mutineers in the semi-finals. Empire versus OGLA, I think I can take Empire in a 3-1, maybe a 3-2, I'm not sure. I just think that when you stack up Empire against OGLA, there's just the slaying power differential is somewhat there to me. I think that OpTic still are going to have some sort of internet issues, or at least they have talked about that somewhat. So I think online they are a somewhat inferior team to what they would be on LAN. So I think the Empire do beat OpTic Gaming. The tough series to me is FaZe versus Mutineers, right? Because these guys played last time at the Grand Finals, and I just wonder what FaZe have done to go back to the drawing board here, because Mutineers were comfortably better than FaZe last weekend. FaZe honestly were pretty lucky to make it to the Grand Finals, in my opinion, with all the Game 5s that they had to play. So with that being said, are Mutineers still going to be a stronger squad? Are Mutineers going to build on their momentum from last weekend to become even better this weekend and just storm the entire tournament? Definitely possible. But then again, you look at FaZe, right? And these guys guys, and with Crowder as coach, certainly they're looking back at VODs, they're looking back at their loss against the Mutineers and thinking, okay, where did things go wrong? How can we improve in this respawn? Like, what can we do in XYZ situation? Will they be able to get that job done in just a single week? And will Mutineers momentum continue? Definitely a question you could have here. But do the Mutineers manage to take all 3 respawns off Atlanta FaZe once again? I just don't think that's incredibly likely, right? So I definitely see this once again going to a game 5. And if it does go game 5, I'm going to take the FaZe to win it. That's just what I'm going to do. So, yeah, I mean, this seems pretty outrageous, to be honest, taking FaZe once again at a game 5 against the Mutineers. But, look, we'll just have to see. Like, last weekend, a lot of people were saying, okay, Florida, where are they in the power rankings? Are they first? Some people putting them second. Some people putting them third. Definitely, you could probably argue still that given they only really had that result in one tournament, and last time they had a great result of the tournament, they kind of fell short of the next one, right? So that's what I'm going to go for. I think that they're going to lose 2 close game 5s to the Empire and FaZe to go out of the tournament, but definitely could go another way here, given what Mutineers have looked like at the previous weekends. Then we have Empire versus FaZe in the grand finals, and I'm going to take Empire to win this one. I wonder exactly what will happen here, but FaZe a couple of times in grand finals now have looked shaky. They've managed to get through the rest of the tournament, but when the pressure's really on in the grand finals, they haven't necessarily shown up to the plate here. I just don't want to predict this going game 5, because if I predict it going game 5, I feel like I have to predict FaZe to win, and then like I can't have a bracket looking like that. That just seems too illogical. The CoD gods would surely disagree. So I'm going to take Empire to win this 3-1. I'm going to say Empire win this entire tournament. I definitely think that's reasonable, but Florida Mutineers could certainly come through and absolutely romp it as they did before. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on this down in the comment section below. Who do you think is going to win? Is it going to be FaZe? Is it going to be Mutineers? Is it going to be Empire? Is it going to be a completely different team, like a Ravens, like an OpTic Gaming, like maybe even a New York Subliners, or Toronto Ultra, or even Paris Legion, right? There's a lot of the teams that could potentially have an upset, make it to the Championship Sunday, and who knows what's possible on Championship Sunday, right? We could have easily seen LAG versus Florida Mutineers in the grand finals last weekend, which would have been, you know, remarkable, right? And who knows whether it happens again this time, but maybe things will settle down slightly given last weekend's tournament, maybe built up some momentum for some squads. These are the start times of today's matches then, so 6 PM at my time here at BST, 1 PM Eastern, 10 AM Pacific time, and it continues on from there. We'll discuss results and all the storylines and all the drama tomorrow as always. Thanks for watching, like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new, I'll see you next time.